skull on it.
This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it! This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast.
Okay, we're gonna go with an opening like this, a cold opening, because
Double intro.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
a double intro.
it was. I couldn't hear it play on my end. So with this,
It went through. It was fine. It worked.
Well, there you go. All right, This is Fall Starts with Bill Blank and Chris Shipley. Clearly, we know what we're doing around here.
Yeah, you're such an amateur.
We're 12 episodes.
See, that's
in.
That's twice. That's twice you're fucking up my episode with your gross cyclone blood or whatever's running through your stupid brain right now. I'm so fucking mad at you.
I'm not kidding you. I was back here going, I cannot believe Bill's not on early. And then you said,
I was ready early. I was ready early. But your stupid fucking picket fence glasses.
I forgot to send you the link. I'm not. I totally forgot. Hey, I sent it to the person that was important.
So, yeah, that's true. I'll give you that.
That's right. So, how's your week been?
Strange. It's okay. So, first of all, before I forget, I do want to bring up one kind of a mental health tip I came up with this weekend. If you are ever feeling like you're just having one of those days, like mentally, where you just kind of feel like you're a piece of shit and like nothing's ever gonna feel right, just something's wrong, just one of those days.
Yep.
All of the My Strange Addictions are on HBO Max now.
Yeah.
I swear to God, if you think there's something wrong with you, and I know, like, we're all about we're doing the mental health thing on our podcast, but I've said this a million times. I want this to be fun.
Yes.
I want to have a good time talking about hard things. Okay. And I don't mean to disparage anyone, but I mean, I got to think the lady that snuffs like baby powder all day, she's got to be like 1 in a billion people. I mean, I'm sorry if I offend her. Or the lady that's married to a fucking Ferris wheel.
What?
Yeah, she's married to a Ferris wheel. There's a term for it. Like, she's completely matter of fact too. She's like, my first serious relationship was an airplane. And then picture airplane.
There's no way.
Yeah, the Ferris wheel's name was Bruce. And and her last serious relationship before Bruce was a locomotive, and they showed a.
So what you're saying is anytime I'm feeling low and some low self-esteem, I just turn on HBO Max.
Exactly.
Which is called Max and not HBO, even though HBO was the bigger brand.
Yeah.
We call it Max and watch My Strange Addiction.
Yeah. Just take your pick. One dude's like married to his car, like has a relationship with his car. And he's like underneath it with the bumper. Like he's like this on the bumper. Just like making out with the bumper. It's fucking beautiful, dude.
Okay.
Beautiful. So yeah, there was that. But honestly though, so I went to Hinterland. I was at Hinterland all weekend. And on Sunday morning, I come home every night because I'm not a camper. I think camping's stupid. So I come home every night, and in the morning I'm driving out Sunday morning, and that big rainstorm hit.
Yeah.
And I hydroplaned, started spinning out like I was on ice, and wrecked my car.
Oh man.
I hit the median. It was so weird because, and this is one of those things where I think like anxiety and stuff over the course of my life. You know how I've talked to you about how it makes everything kind of slow down when there's like big major shit happening.
Right.
It's like I freak out over little shit, but like when I've always stayed calm. And there was that moment where I know I'm resigned to the fact that I'm not stopping until I hit this concrete median,
Right. Yep.
And so like from the moment I knew I was going to hit that median to the moment I hit it, had to have been 3 days. Like,
Yeah.
it was insane how long that took. And I'm just like, come on. Like, I'm literally going, come on. Like,
it's coming.
Yeah. Like, if you're going to fucking take me. Let's fucking go, you know? But yeah. And so I ended up okay. And they didn't total the car. It's like 13 grand worth of damage, but it was okay. So I'm getting it fixed. I don't lose the car that I love, and everything's fine. You know, I got the deductible and all, but you know, I just keep telling myself, and this is maybe another bit of a tip, I don't know, but I keep telling myself I've worked really hard over the last couple of years to make sure that when shit like this happens, it doesn't kill me, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
20 years ago, this would have, my life would have been over. I would have been screwed, had no idea what to do, calling my dad and shit, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
So like, I'm just telling myself I'm reaping the benefits of my hard work now, because that's really why I do it, you know?
Yeah.
It's bullshit, but it's a trick I can play on my brain.
I don't know. I don't think it's bullshit. I think that there's a little validity. There's a lot of validity to that.
But I will, yeah. And I will give myself credit for like my maturation, so to speak.
Yeah.
My drunk ass roommate came home at like 3 a.m. on Saturday, you know, Sunday morning. And I saw him fingering my Ring doorbell when he came in.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew he was drunk. And I was leaving about 8:45 in the morning, and I couldn't find my keys anywhere. I tore the house apart for 45 minutes. Finally, I just knocked on his door and was like, "Did you pick my keys up or something with your drunk ass?" And yeah, that's what happened. He had my keys in his room. So had I left when I wanted to, I wouldn't have hit the rain, and I wouldn't have wrecked my car.
Yeah.
Again, 20 years ago, I would have came straight home, went in his room, and beat the living shit out of him for that.
Yeah.
But I know that I can't blame him for the physics. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's my that's my story.
Well, I'm glad you're all right. I'm glad you.
Yeah, me too,
around,
man.
So
you know, I'm glad I didn't miss this.
Nope. Me too.
We could have done this in memoriam, you know.
That's right. It wouldn't have been near as fun. I mean, I'd have still had fun, but I wouldn't have had to worry about giving you a link. That's for
right. Sure. Yeah. No shit.
So this
How
is
about you?
not too bad. You know what? This week was a lot better. I struggled last week. The last 3 days of work, really struggled over that weekend. And again, I'm scheduling these therapy appointments. They're every 2 weeks. I have another one on Monday. This has been a good week. I feel better about some stuff. I really, it's hard to explain how much just knowing that I have somebody that I can go in and talk to about things without any judgment whatsoever is amazing. How much of a clean slate I can go out there. And it's helped me talk more to my wife about some of the things that I know are okay to talk to her about. And then we have a conversation about it, and she is more understanding now of some of my moods or whatever else. So
like your attraction to mascots, like your furry thing. She's cool with that.
Yeah, she's cool with that. As long as I don't bother her then, so she's all right with it.
Yeah. You know, I was a polar bear in high school. I don't want to turn you on or anything, but
we were so off the rails. Okay.
Yeah, baby.
All right. Well, nobody's tuning in to listen to us. Let's be honest.
No, that's true. Anybody extra.
Right. Anybody extra. Right. The 3 other people that listen every week.
Yeah, the three, loyal listeners.
Right. But one of our things that we had talked about when we started this pod was men's mental health, but also we wanted to dive into sports because there's a lot of mental toughness, things like that enter into that, and that's a realm that we always wanted to get into. One of our first guests was Lindsay Fennelly. She was an amazing guest.
It's also like what men tend to talk about most.
Yes.
And if you can combine the sports conversations with mental health conversations and, make it fun, we repeat that a lot. That's kind of the mission of this, is to have fun talking about hard things. And so we want to bring sports into the mix and and talk about those struggles. And, you know, a lot of times these guys aren't human beings to us, really.
Right.
You know, and so it's good to put a human face on people and kind of dig a little deeper than just, you know, whatever drew you to them in the first place.
Well, and that was part of the reason why I reached out to this gentleman, because he had put a tweet out a couple weeks ago that when I read it was something that I thought it was an epiphany for him as he tweeted it out. And it was something that showed more of the human side about him. And I know probably for the majority of Iowa State fans, they would probably be hard pressed to believe that about this gentleman. I've listened to him though on Jared and J-Bo, and have kind of grown a small affection for him, a tiny bit. So, Bill, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest, and we'll bring him on.
Yeah. So I've been telling myself ever since, you know, I promised that I wouldn't fanboy. So before I bring him on, I just want to make sure that everything's ready to go, like on my end, you know?
Yeah.
So just real quick, I just want to make sure that, and I need to write something down, just real fast. So yeah, it's my pleasure. And I'm so happy and excited to welcome our guest, one of my all-time favorite Hawkeyes, Mr. Jordan Bohannon. There he is.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Swell. Thanks you for
Jordan.
coming. Stash and all. He's all grown up.
I'm not a little kid anymore.
Yeah. You know, I was looking at you took a picture with my son back in 2017, and I pulled that up and was looking at that today, and I was like, man, look how young he looks. I mean, that would have been what, sophomore year?
Sophomore.
Yeah,
year.
Right there.
Yeah, there it is. I sent it to Chris. A little blurry.
They used to call me Babyface Assassin, but I don't think they're calling me that anymore.
No, they're
no
calling you Porn Stash Assassin. Like, this dude hits 5 threes and goes and has a threesome with a couple of like strippers.
Those are good old days.
Yeah, so that's I should probably just lead like with probably the number one question on every other like 45-year-old man who dreamt that they ever played a D1 sport in the first place, much less could have been a Hawkeye and came out of the tunnel. And you're playing for the G League Wolves now. So number one, I think is how much money do you make? And number two, how many girls have you slept with in college? And no, I'm just kidding.
My girlfriend's not in the room right now, so I probably shouldn't. Right. Well, if she
say one, the answer's one.
You're not very good at this, Jordan.
See, if I could impart any wisdom on you ever in your life, right there, the answer's one.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's always if she's around, it's one.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, again, thank you so much for coming on. And like we said, you know, things are kind of you know, about mental health here. But is there, you know, what's your journey been like? Everybody obviously saw everything. You know, you're 12 years of college?
13.
13, yeah. So everybody pretty much saw that. But what's your journey kind of been like since, you know, everybody, you know, most people know that, you know, you're playing for the Wolves now and everything, but how did that come about?
Well, I mean, it started as a kid with a dream, as simple as that. I always say that when, you know, now that I'm kind of out of college, I have a little more time on my hands during the summers because I'm not have to have any obligations with the college team anymore and be there for, you know, those preseason workouts. So now I've been running a lot of camps and I'm trying to give back as much as I can to the younger generation, just because I know, you know, how much work it really takes to get to this level. And it takes a lot of time commitment starting at these ages. I'm starting to, you know, try to get my knowledge to. So, you know, it was a long jersey, man. I'm not going to, or long journey, man. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it was a lot of,
Sure.
You know, a lot of reflection, even while I was going through the journey. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. You know, I had so much adversity just to try to even get to college. Even, you know, just getting to that first step was, you know, a major obstacle. And, you know, I always hear these people talking about how they're successful and they go through these loops where, it's a really shitty day and it's the best day in the world. And that's really what it was. Like, even when I got to college, like, it's just a lot of work and a lot of time commitment, a lot of dedication to your craft. And you really have to love what you do to be able to be successful. And, I had a lot of bad days, had a lot of good days in college, but, looking back, I can honestly say, I made the most of my time at Iowa. And, they always make that joke. I was there for 6 years or 15 years or whatever, how many years they want to say. But, if I could do it all over again, I'm damn proud of myself. I decided to take that route of going an extra year. And, it led to a goal of mine of winning a Big Ten, conference title. And that was huge for me to, kind of be selfish for once and say, I did this for my team and I could give back as much as I could.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, anyone that's really, obviously I know I've always loved your sense of humor about it. You have to, that's kind of how you have to come at it with that scrutiny. But I know that almost, I'd say 99.9% of the people that were giving you shit would have killed to be you. You know what I mean? And I guess, mentally, how's that work for you where you kind of know when you're going through a tough time or any adversity whatsoever, and in the back of your head, like intellectually, because you're smart enough to know that so many people wish they were in your position. So many people wish they could be you right now. But that doesn't help. That even though you intellectually know that, that doesn't make you feel better when you're going through it. So what do you do? What did you do, or do you do currently, when that creeps in there, when you're having those days and it ain't good enough that that they all wish they were you, because right at that moment you probably don't wish you're you.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think, it's funny how much me and my dad kind of lives have overlapped. And obviously he's one of my biggest role models in my life and I love him to death. And I can't thank him enough for, the opportunities he just has given my family. He really came from nothing out in South Pasadena, California, grew up, in a really tough time and really didn't have much of a family environment around him. And he came out to Iowa because of the great Coach Hayden Fry and sold him a dream. And he kind of instilled that mentality that a lot of these philosophies that Coach Hayden Fry had, he contributes that to his work life, his family life. And he formed this family that he created with my mom that, we wanted to work really hard and have a strong work ethic. And, there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, but, you got to know what's important in your life. You got to, hold God true to yourself. You got to keep family close and keep your circle tight. And those are definitely some things I wanted to carry on. And Coach McCaffrey, it's crazy because I've accumulated so much knowledge in such a short amount of time. I feel like, so it's always hard for me when someone asks me like these questions, like just trying to formulate.
No, it's overload. It keeps, right, yeah, absolutely,
exactly. But
and don't worry, there's no structure to this at all. We're a couple of idiots, so.
But no, it's like I said, my dad and my own life has overlapped so much. He played at Iowa, and Iowa was a school for whatever reason. I always wanted to go there. I always wanted to play there. It was my dream school. And, one thing led to another that Coach McCaffrey called me. I accepted the next day. And then I didn't really know what was in store for me and how much, university I was going to welcome me. And, it's funny, I felt like my dad was more of a celebrity than I was going through school sometimes. But that was great. But it's funny because I talked to my dad about how our stories overlap. And, he always would preach to me about, there's going to be some adversity that's going to hit you and you're going to be questioned by your whole life status, like where you stand with your life and what do you believe in and what do you want to go about it in the next few years, the next, 10 years, 20 years. And, that really hit me freshman year when I even started playing my first game. There's just a lot of adversity in the preseason. I didn't know how much I was going to play. And all these, little thoughts started creeping in my head, like you're talking about. And, there's a lot of, mentality that went in my head, like exactly what you're saying. There's a lot of people that would have died to be in my position, even though they're going to be criticizing me and every move I make. And that was hard. That was really hard, being in the microscope. And, I was in a microscope for 6 years of my life. And those 6 years are, a lot of people make a lot of dumb decisions in those 6 years.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So God bless you for, you pretty much got through it without any of the big ones. Right. You didn't get anybody pregnant. You didn't sexually assault anybody. You didn't fail
didn't
your
get busted for
classes.
gambling.
Right.
Yeah, there was no. Well, gambling wasn't legal yet, thank God.
But,
Yeah, we might have lost a couple more.
Right.
But but again, and that's like all the NIL stuff going on right now. I mean, you are so hugely responsible. I mean, do you realize how responsible you are for what everybody has at this point? Like, I feel like everybody getting these NIL deals should all send you like some residuals or something. Like, you should get. I mean, if they all just gave you $5, you'd probably be a millionaire.
I don't know about all that. Before we went on that topic, I do want to finish on what I was saying, just because I think it's how much it's important, how much I hold it true to my life and appreciate my dad. But our overlaps in our lives. I was going through that struggle my freshman year, and I had to dig deep down. Like, is this really what I want to do? Is this really what I'm cut out to do? Is this what God really has in store for me? And I had a lot of long talks with my dad that just left me in tears when I was done talking to him. And, I just was questioning a lot of things. And, something he kind of instilled in me was, thinking about, a lot of the kids that are out there that are looking up to you, and, they would dream to be in your position, and they're following your every move. And that was big for me to realize that. And he formed a lot of special relations with, the Children's Hospital wasn't as big as when he was back in the 80s. But he had a lot of important relationships that he touched on. And, he had this one kid that, looked up to him so much. He had no arms, no legs. And he painted a statue of him with just his teeth. And he's like, that's the kind of stuff that kept him going way back then, was kids that literally had nothing going for their life. Not saying nothing going in a bad way, but
right.
Nothing going like
they could easily not have any hope.
Exactly. Yeah. No hope at all. And here he is, being an inspiration to, a quarterback that led the team in the Rose Bowl. And, that was something that hit home for me when he started telling me those stories of his life. I was like, man, I need to get to the Children's Hospital. Like, not in a selfish way. I need to realize, like, the things my dad, how his emotions was moved, like mine were my freshman year. And that was one of the big things I did. I went to the Children's Hospital and formed these great relationships with a lot of these kids. And it was something that I didn't realize was going to be so beneficial for me, because I got to share so much experiences with them and learn about their stories, and they just affected me in some sort of way. I was like, any type of adversity that I'm going through, it is nothing compared to what some of these kids are going to in the Children's Hospital. And that's why, I made it a goal of mine to continue to be in there for a lot of these kids in there. And, that was a lot of stuff behind the scenes that, looking back, I'm so damn proud of myself. I was able to do that and try to inspire these kids. And in the end of it, it really wasn't something I was trying to inspire them. They ended up inspiring me to do great things because of what they didn't have that I did. And that's something that I think a lot of people need to, have their emotions move like myself did, and how my dad did. So I know that was a long story, but
no, that's great. No, it's great. I mean, it's great.
It's 100%. It's 100% on point. Like, it's hard sometimes to do things that are good for the community or anything like that. Sometimes it's hard because you feel almost like people are going to judge you as if you're doing this for yourself. He's just doing this for publicity. He's just doing this to look good. You know what I mean? Like a photo op, so to speak, or whatever. So even no question, they're going to be inspirational. I mean, and you shouldn't have to apologize for for them inspiring you. You know what I mean? Especially when you made their day. So
Well, and a lot of people may not realize that either, right? It's pretty profound on the other end of it. My boys, Joshua and Jordan, have Williams syndrome. They have gone through Victory Day at Iowa State. They were kid captains for Iowa State. But the profound effect that you guys have when you give your time to those kids and things like that is a lasting effect for them as well. So it's a mutual thing on both ends. I think a lot of people see the benefits that the kids get, but don't realize how much those kids and those inspirational stories teach you guys too, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the main thing too, is, well, the first thing is just the relationships you build with some of these families. And I was fortunate, just to go down another storyline, I was fortunate to meet this kid named Tate Shaver, and he literally changed my entire life and view on life, even after all these kids that I formed relationships with, because it was during the kind of the COVID battle. He's really struggling, and He was from Williamsburg, and his family was such big Iowa fans, and he ended up passing away around COVID time, and he was at our game. Like it was during COVID, and it was like had probably 2 months to live, and he was there cheering his butt off. And we're like, this is a kid that has so much that she shouldn't be this happy in this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
He shouldn't be this happy meeting us or hanging out with us because of what's on his horizon. It wasn't looking good, and that was something that I think touched a lot of lives on our team. Was, man, we're complaining about a 2.5 hour practice. Like, what are we doing? This is nothing compared to what other people are going out and
24/7.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I remember. It's funny you say that because I always reflect on that. 6 years ago, when I went through cancer and I was going to get chemo every Monday morning, I remember a young kid that was in there, had a mask on. He was already in the room. He was getting his chemo by the time I got there, and was still hooked up and going through it when I would leave every day. And I used to think to myself, I'll be damned if I'm going to feel sorry for myself when that kid is over there way longer than I am. He's certainly a hell of a lot tougher than I am, because I don't know that I'd have been able to do that when I was 10 or 11. And those types of things just make you want to work even harder and maybe realize the blessings that you have in your own life as well.
Yeah, and that's something with our society nowadays. It's just we kind of have to go through a bad period in our life now to realize how much we're truly blessed. Which I wish it wasn't like that. I wish we woke up every day and we are truly blessed for our position. And I'm guilty of it too. I was in college, and there's some workouts I didn't want to go to, and I was like, this is stupid. This is dumb. Like I'm sore. And at the end of the day, like if I had no legs, would I really have the same viewpoint? Like really, Jordan, is that really what your mindset is? But for whatever reason, that's something that we have to go through a tragedy to really count our blessings even more. And that's something I've always tried to have a better mindset in. And it's tough. It can be really tough.
I think that you guys, basketball players in general, I don't think people realize the amount of work that goes into a season there. You think of football, they go to fall camp, they play in the fall, they have some workouts in the spring or whatever, but you guys are in the gym probably from the time school starts. You have a long season all the way into March, almost April. Talk about not only the normal everyday pressures that you have as a freshman going into college with all of that, but then throwing that on top of it. What were some of the things that we've talked a little bit about, what you've seen from other people, and that's inspiring, but what was that transition like going in there and mentally having to not only, again, be a freshman in college, just like every other freshman, but now you've got these huge expectations as well, playing a sport that's super hard and long.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I think the time commitment alone is something I don't think people truly realize. Like, and that's something you can go along with Bill, you're talking about NIL. Guys are complaining about how much these guys are getting paid. And, that's why I've always been a huge player advocate. To kind of touch on that real quick, just because I know the time commitment that it takes for these athletes. And it's not only the time commitment, it's the expectations that you're talking about, Chris. There's so much expectations and pressure put on these kids nowadays. I mean, you look at it, you're like, what do they have to be stressed about? They're playing the game they love. They're on full scholarship. Now they're making a little money. But you're looking at the grand scheme of things. Like, my life, I was in a microscope for 6 years. Like you can, if you have one bad interaction, you're going to be labeled as a bad person. Like you could have 100 positive interactions with families, with kids, people, and then they catch you on a bad day. And it just takes one person to have a bad interaction and have you under that microscope, and they publicize it now. And you're labeled as that person just because of one person. And I think that's the pressure that, so a lot of people that don't know this, my brother, Zach, he ended up attending every single one of my basketball games. And I didn't realize until like halfway through my sophomore year, I was like, why are you doing this? Like, what? I get it. Like, I love you for it, but you don't have to come to every single one of my games.
Yeah.
And sure enough, 2 games later, he came to Maryland, and I had one of the worst games of my career. And, I was reading these tweets about myself, and Zach was sitting next to me after the game. We were sitting on the court of Maryland. And our flight just got delayed, so we had a little time to talk. And he's like, what you're doing right now, reflecting on yourself and think about how shitty of a person you are, that's why I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here for you as a person. I'm not here for you as a basketball player. I could care less about you as a basketball player. And that was another thing that, it kind of broadened my horizon of what these athletes are dealing with. And, there's the time commitments, the pressure, the expectations. It can get you. It can get you in places that you don't want to be, even as a normal person. Your mind is your most important, attribute of yourself. And those minds of some athletes out there, it can get in some pretty dark places just because of that.
Well, that's, in a lot of ways, that's the difference. Like we just saw it with the club pro. Was that the Masters? The guy that had that crazy run and then got invited to the next tournament and just ate a dick, like finished last or whatever. Like that's kind of the people that's one of the probably the biggest separator from great and good is the mental strength to block all that shit out, or to be able to at least overcome it. You don't necessarily have to block it out, but maybe channel it as motivation, maybe, but I got to imagine, like, when it's your own fans, like, that's a situation, that's another part of my, like, kind of maturation process in my life. I mean, I'm obviously, I would be like really critical. And at one point, I just had this revelation, and I was like, these guys have provided if any one thing in the world has provided me more joy in my life, this is it. The most joy that I've had in my life is somehow related to Iowa games, whether it's basketball or football. And I don't mean over the, the birth of my son and all these, the real shit, but I'm just saying, like, how much fun I've had, how many times I've hugged strangers and all of the great things. And I'm like, what kind of dick am I for a kid having a bad game? And I'm like, he's on scholarship, he's got to hit that shot or whatever, And I just remember one day thinking to myself, man, what a dick. So now all I ever do is bitch at the refs. I complain about the refs. I blame the refs for every single thing, no matter what. In fact, if I wouldn't recommend going through my Twitter history, because if you go back long enough, you probably hate me. But there's times where I can distinctly remember saying, like, blaming refs on a level of, like, I'm trying to think of an example, but bottom line is I basically was saying, like, Jordan Bohannon is perfect in every way, and everything that's wrong right now is referee related. Basically was, which is why our logo has a referee on it, by the way. If you haven't, it's like, this is that's why it's called false starts, because of how much I hate referees.
Well, if you guys didn't know, I'm the ref accountability officer. So,
yes, exactly, right. And in fact, before Chris reached out to you to be on the show, I actually tweeted at you a long ass time ago, because I think it was a video you shared, something about referees, and I was like, dude, you got to come on our podcast because we share the same hatred for these people, just as a species. I just think they're horrible human beings as a whole. I think that whatever makes them decide to want to be a referee, especially for a living, is the same thing that makes the kids that got beat up in high school want to be cops. They're the same exact people.
Hey, I'm down to go to that rabbit hole. You don't have to get me going.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And you know what? Have you watched the what was the ref's name? What was that ref's name? Tim whatever. Tim Donahue. Yeah, have you watched that? Donahue on Untold on Netflix. Yes, I've watched. Have you watched it? Yes. Yeah. Now I'm right about everything. Yeah. All I needed was that one documentary.
Yeah. I do want to touch on the entertainment aspect. You kind of brought it up. I think that's a big, like, that you're realizing that, even me, I didn't realize that until I was going through the process, like how much of a, I want to say zoo animal, but you're really, like, you're out there.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And I have two stories, but the first one's kind of funny. Like, I remember we were in Sioux Falls playing. Sioux Falls is one of my favorite places to play in the world.
Yeah, like, that little weird thing, arena or whatever.
Yeah, Pentagon Arena. Like
Yeah.
it was phenomenal because it was all Iowa fans. Like all the Iowa fans on the western side of the state, they're like, "This is fantastic! Like we haven't been able to see Iowa basketball all year because we're not going to drive 4.5 hours midweek." So anyway, long story short, we're going through warm ups, and I tend to anytime there's like I'm free and people ask for autograph, ask for a picture, I always was doing it unless it was like obviously doing warm ups and during a game, which I've had that happen before. But we're going through warm-ups, stretching, and like obviously we're all getting focused, so we're not going to take the time to go over and do a picture because it's business now. And I remember there's this lady out there and she was just snapping at us, like hey, you guys, look. We're like she was like a huge Iowa fan, but I remember I was standing next to Tyler Cook and he's like, man, we are really zoo animals if you think about it. But that's what we're there. We're like we're giving a product to as entertainment. All this money is being made off the backs of these players. Like it is a huge entertainment aspect of it.
And that's one of the evils of money and capitalism, in my opinion, is when people spend money on it, they think that entitles them to all these different things.
Yes.
Like and it doesn't mean that I don't think, I mean, I've said this many times, I don't think that a college athlete for my favorite team or whatever is above criticism by any means. I mean, there's some level of it that's just, I mean, that's just on an accountability level or something.
Yeah.
But like when you're adding people on Twitter, and I've always said, like, look, they're still men. Okay. I realize when somebody says something like they're just kids or whatever, like, well, they've been through puberty, and if they commit a murder, they're going to get tried as an adult. So let's not say they're just kids just yet. They've got some kind of capacity to know right and wrong and everything. But at the same time, they're providing you with so much joy that, like I said, you can be critical, but when you're adding somebody, when somebody at you on Twitter so that they can make sure you see it.
Yeah.
Like that's just a different level of asshole. I don't understand it.
Well, and it's usually behind a fake account anyways, with they don't put their real name on it. So
100%.
Yeah. Which is a lot of the times what happened to me. Like I have a bad game. There's some people that had their actual Twitter account. I mean, at the end of the day, I know a lot of those people that have tweeted at me really bad things. If I ever see them in real life, I do hold grudges. It's hard for me not to. I've always been a person like I'm gonna be the bigger person, which I will be. But I don't know what you did to me. Like that's kind of my mentality. I'm gonna remember that.
There's nothing wrong with bringing the receipts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, if you're anything like me, and I think that you probably are, just not knowing you personally, but watching you over the years play basketball and whatever else, I think that socially you're probably a lot like me, where I'm really good at making somebody want to hit me when I'm talking shit. Like,
well, that kind of happened to me. So
yeah, that's true. But see, like the story was never told. All there was the video.
It will be someday once
once everything's done and you can actually.
I'll tell
you. Jordan, and not for you to go deep into that, but from the Iowa State side as a fan side, I can remember when that happened. A lot of Iowa State fans rejoiced in it, whatever, and it physically made me sick because you on the basketball court, I can hate you as much as I want, right? You were in that opposite uniform. I want you to miss every shot. I don't want you to succeed. But at the end of the day, you're a person and you're a young man, and I don't want to see somebody do that. And man, did I take some heat from people on my side because I was like, that's not something you celebrate and whatever. And I think I learned that because as I've been on Twitter, I've gotten to know not necessarily college athletes, but college athletes' fathers, right? I got to know George Condon's dad pretty well, met him a couple times, got to meet Rory Walling's father, have become really good friends with him. And I know that it just makes it a little more human, right? And they're a little more human of a person. And this Iowa State, or this rivalry thing, I can hate the team and I can want you to lose every game. But as a person, I don't want to see that type of stuff. And I don't understand why people are like that.
It's because none of them ever have been hit in the face.
Yeah.
That's I think I've said it before on this podcast. like if everybody had the threat, like anybody, especially the Iowa State fans rejoicing, I bet you 90% of every one of those people that were rejoicing have never been in a fight, have never gotten hit in the face for no reason or another. Like I'm 45 years old. I got hit in the face at a bar last year by a fucking 7-footer. Like,
yeah.
And it was for literally no reason.
Yeah.
So like anyone that's had that happen and literally could do nothing about it. Like when that happened to me, the dude, they snatched him up, ran him out of the bar right away. I got no chance to fight back. I got no chance to do nothing. All I got was a fucking bloody lip and some swelling.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I did nothing to deserve it, you know? So like if you knew what it was like to get hit, to get sucker punched by somebody and not be able to do shit about it, you wouldn't rejoice.
Yeah, and that was a tough thing for me. I mean, we don't have to talk about death, but I think the fact, like, you know, it happened, and you know what happened, and you know, I obviously I can't really share what
Sure.
exactly happened.
No, we're not. Yeah,
yeah, but it's tough for me because I know 99.9% of the people that actually talk to me and know me as a person know, you know, they wouldn't believe all the shit that's going and, you know, have that reasoning why I got hit and all that stuff. But, you know, it's tough because, you know, I look back at the final year. So I came back to Hilton and we played, which was great. That was my favorite environments to ever play in. But
yeah,
you don't realize like how truly human, you know, we are out there. Cause, you know, I told my parents, I was like, you guys shouldn't go. You guys stay home. My brother should stay home. I don't want
so they don't have
to
listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had to like, we hired a security to walk my parents, my family in. Like it was a big ordeal because I was like, I wasn't worried about me. Like I'll handle myself and whatever happened in the past to me, like this is not me. I don't want
my brother might punch somebody though.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what was in my head because I know how protected my family members are.
Yeah.
So like we had, you know, 2 SWAT team members through because my brother's in the military. So he had a couple of his buddies come with us and he sat next to us. Then we had University of Iowa police with us walking my family in and out of the game. You know, my girlfriend was there too. And it was just a bizarre, you know, kind of feeling like to have in your back of your head because exactly what you're saying, like people don't really humanize some of these players that are out there. And like there's some real shit that you kind of go through when you kind of go through some adversity like that.
Yeah, and what you go through mentally, now you have that extra layer the next time you're playing, which is a distraction. It's something else that's on your mind besides the game. And anyway, I mean, I can remember playing games. I mean, I played baseball in high school and college, and like I can remember playing games where I had something distracting me. I can't imagine being in Hilton Coliseum on the opposing team. You know, like
right.
It was awesome though. That was one of my favorite games. I know we lost by like 25, but man, like stepping foot in that arena and like I'm a guy like I like to be cocky in the court because I believe
it's like you're the bad guy wrestler.
Yeah.
You're being the bad guy wrestler.
Exactly.
That's the entertainment.
I love to have that happen. Like I knew that the aspect of being an entertainer almost, and I knew I believed in my talents. Like I'm gonna go out there on the court. I'm gonna give, you know, the crowd exactly what I believe I can, you know, provide. And that was, you know, play the best I can, and I'm gonna be kind of cocky when I do it and be confident. So, you know, it was fun stepping foot in that arena and having everyone chant "fuck Bohannon." I'm like, my mom was all pissed off. I'm like, looking back, Mom. That
you can't. You should be happy,
right?
Yeah.
Like see shit like that. Like my son is a professional wrestler now, and depending on, you know, the promotion or the event, he might be a bad guy, might be a good guy. And so like when he's a bad guy and I'm there, all these people are yelling horrible shit at him. and these aren't just wrestling fans, these are independent wrestling fans in like Newton. So these motherfuckers got 3 teeth and dirty ass shirts and shit, yelling "fuck you" at my son, you know. And I love it because I know he's doing his job if they're yelling at him like that.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, the father in me sometimes is just like, dude,
Well, and I wouldn't have the foggiest clue what this feels like, but I would imagine when you have thousands of fans screaming at you like that, and then you hit a dagger 3 to shut them up, that's got to be feeling pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, and that's something looking back on. You know, everyone always, you know, I even had some Iowa fans being critical of me because of how, I love the game of basketball and I want to portray that on the court. And that's something I am very passionate in. But for whatever reason, when I started speaking out about college athletes, I started, I had all these great moments as a Hawkeye already in the jersey. Like I'm going to, still be confident in the court. I'm going to be the same exact person I was. And for whatever reason, when that whole NIL thing happened, I started speaking out. People thought like, what is he doing? This is not him. I'm like, you look back, people are following me, like personally, like from freshman year all the way to, I was the same exact person. I was the same exact person. I just spoke out about something that a lot of people didn't like. And for whatever reason, when college athletes do that, some fans don't want to hear their point of views for whatever reason.
Well, I think that athletes in general, there's just fans, they want you, it's that shut up and play mentality. And me personally, I love it. I love it when you guys use your platforms because I think that's the responsible thing to do.
Right.
And there's one of my favorite bands, Rage Against the Machine, has a line in a song, and I wish I could remember the name of the song. Now I sound like an idiot saying they're one of my favorite bands, but they have a line in a song that says, "Why stand on a silent platform? Fight the war, fuck the norm." And so, like, I have lived by that. Doing, I've been a stand-up comedian my whole adult life. So, like, when I first started going on stage, I used to think about that all the time because I wanted to talk about things that mattered on stage. I wanted to be funny, but I wanted to have a point. Yeah. And so that used to go through my head all the time. And so, guys like you, I absolutely adore LeBron James for the human that he is. I mean, and I've always been a Laker fan, but not a LeBron fan. So, doesn't feel like a Laker, but as a human, it's like this dude is putting how many kids through college now? Like, I mean, just the amount of human things that's using your platform. And you have used your platform for something that has literally changed college sports forever.
Yeah, well, and that's something in my mindset too. Sorry, Chris, to interrupt.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
But like, that was something, obviously there's something when you deal with, it wasn't really that political, but I spoke out something that had something to do with basketball, really didn't have something to do with basketball, and some Iowa fans didn't like it. But
you weren't thinking politically when you were saying
no, and I'm just thinking about what's right, and that's something I didn't think that was that big of a controversial issue. And when I speak out about something, I'm gonna be knowledgeable on it. And I feel like for the most part, I've had all the facts straight. When someone ever came at me on social media or in person about why they don't like me as a player anymore, even if they were Iowa State guys, but it's not like I started speaking out about like the Russian wars, Cold War that was going on in 1948 and why it's like I'm literally doing something that I know to heart. Like I've studied, I've researched, I've done my work. Like I'm still a part-time, employee of the NCPA that I worked with to pass, this NIL stuff. So, as much as, it sucks for some Iowa fans that even came at me after that, I know, at the end of the day, I did.
Those guys, man. Like, this is, as a fan, this is where Iowa fans piss me off because I feel like they make me look bad. Like when, like when somebody's like looking at what an Iowa fan is, so to speak, because as dumb as it is, a lot of us do that. We have like these prejudgments we make about people as who they are based on what team they cheer for or whatever else, like I think pretty much all Cyclone fans are little bitches. I don't know any of them. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm literally right here, dude.
I apologize. What I meant to say was, but like, it's just,
that's a great point though, Bill. Like, cause even now, like I'm out of college and, I went through the rivalry. I would like to say I was hoping I was the face of the rivalry because I kind of like wanted to be selfish like that. Cause I wanted to push the rivalry to be even better when I was gone.
Yeah.
But like now, like I'm out of college and I'm a huge diehard Iowa fan now, but I have some of my best buddies now that are Iowa State fans. Like I don't care about that whole thing once it gets to real life. Like,
well, exactly. And you're going to talk your shit or whatever, but like that, but see those people that feel the need, like, first of all, how fucking entitled are you? And what makes you feel the need to go up and go, well, I used to like you, but when you did this and this and this, And I'm going to go ahead and you don't have to confirm or deny this. I'm going to go ahead and guess that almost every one of them that said shit like that to you was over the age of 65 and white.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's probably 100% because those are the people that are keeping like weed illegal. You know, those are the people in our state that are keeping Kim Reynolds in office. Like, those are the exact people that are going to walk up to you and go, I gave my money for tickets and you go play and shut the fuck up. Like,
shut up and dribble is a
100%.
terrible
yeah,
statement.
like fuck those people. Don't ever feel bad about those
right.
people. I know you probably don't, but
no, I don't.
And I will tell you this, Jordan. Bill talked about LeBron and how he didn't like LeBron, but he likes what he stood for and whatever. The moment probably that turned for me with you was you left your shoes on the court, and I was like, that motherfucker, like, what a dick. And then the next day I find out you're donating them to charity to give money to the kids, and I was like, well, fuck, now I gotta fucking like him. So, and that's just being brutally honest. Like, at that point I was like, okay, you know what, it's more about that than it is the rivalry and whatever else. And frankly, if I'm being 100% honest, if George Niang would have dropped those shoes in Carver, I'd have been like,
you'd have thought it was the most great
Exactly.
thing ever.
That's a serious mic drop.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So,
but that's what's so great. You know, people that know the story, like, because the shoes end up in the trash can because the security guard threw them in, and one Iowa fan, I guess, like, came out and took the shoes off and gave them back, or took the shoes out of the trash can or something like that, and gave them to got into like the tunnel by the locker room, and one of our grad assistants was there, and he got them that way. And I was like, what am I going to do with these shoes now that I just pissed off like pretty much the whole central and western side of the state? And I was like, and then there was a lot of issues going about me giving them to charity. And this was kind of started a little bit of even more of my push for college athletes.
For NIL, yeah.
Yeah, because I was trying to donate them to Children's Hospital. I remember I called Fran. I was like, Coach, I'm going to do this. Like, I think this is going to be great. There's already so much publicity around it, and it went viral. Like, so many people are pissed off about this, but what if I did this?
He's like, a bunch of red tape, obviously. You're just trying to give somebody, a hospital, a bunch of money, and you got to do all this legal shit.
Yep. And he's like, J-Ball, you're 100% have a great idea. Let's do it. And then I remember I got a call from, a compliance office, and they're trying to say that I wasn't legally allowed to do that as a college athlete. And they said how I should refrain from doing it. And so, you know what I did 30 minutes later? I put those shoes on Instagram. I said, I'm donating all this money to the Children's Hospital. And I was close to being like ineligible, like for the next year.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, like how much I went through. And, obviously I love the University of Iowa, and they were probably just doing their jobs, but that kind of kickstarted me to, touching on NIL. And that's what I wanted to do next, because I lived it firsthand. I know how idiotic the NCAA is. So,
well, and to me,
we ended up raising, $26,500.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's crazy because I did it my last year. Sorry, I'm ranting again, but
no, you're right.
But I did it my last year. I donated the money officially. That was kind of my last memento as I left. I wanted that to be my last action before I stepped off campus. And it's crazy because where the money went to is for like AEDs. So like when there's been a lot of athletes that are, drop dead on the ground when they're working out,
Mm-hmm.
or a lot of it happens in gyms or courts or by a court. So the AED, it like I don't know, it shocks the heart back to, bring them back to life. And it's crazy because the 2.5 years of the span, like I had the whole thing happen. I got everything finally figured out, how I'm going to donate the money and where I'm going to go to. As I was figuring that out, I got to rewind. So my AAU coach, he had a daughter that dealt with heart issues. So I want to do something with the heart.
Gotcha.
For the money. And then, a year and a half passed, and I'm still trying to figure out where I want the funds to go exactly, related to the heart. And our manager, Pat, literally he dropped dead to the ground. I think he died for a minute and a half. And our trainer saved his life by going into AED and shock his heart back. So that kind of furthered my, mental. I wanted to do that to,
sure,
where I want the funds to go. So that's a great thing too. In conclusion, Iowa State gives me shit. I'm like, What, you're gonna talk shit about hospital?
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
exactly.
We're gonna take a break here. We're gonna get a word from Revelton Distilling Company, and then Jordan, I want to come back. I want to talk about your tweet that prompted me to reach out to you, and then I really want to talk about this gambling scandal and get your thoughts on that, because I feel like you got a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
Before we do this break, there's one point I want to make about the NIL, because even though it's kind of the Wild West now and everything's crazy, I still don't even think it's enough, to be honest, because what people fail to realize is everything I have on right now, none of this went to the players. This hat, this shirt, everything that has the tiger, my sunglasses, all this stupid shit that I put on to be funny, like no player got any money from that. And do you think anybody on in this whole entire fucking state would own any of this merchandise if it weren't for sports?
Right.
Yeah. None of it. It would just be parents of kids that went to school there. You know, I have a Central College shirt because my sister went there. That's it.
Yeah, and I hate the argument too. The whole scholarship's enough. Like they get. Let's be honest. Like who they call us student athletes, but what are they going to school for? They're not going to go get the football players, the basketball players, wrestlers, the profitable sports. They're not going and say, okay, I'm going to Iowa because I want a degree. No, they're going to Iowa because they got a scholarship to play basketball. They got a scholarship to play football.
Right.
And that scholarship is, it's a lot of money. But, I mean, you're in a full-time job, all the TV rights, media deals, all that stuff, all that is adding up pretty quickly, and all that's going into the wrong pockets.
And you're not allowed to make any money on your own. Like, you got to commit all this time, which then makes you even more poor than a regular student because you can't make any money. So if you want to order a pizza, you got to, like, beg your mom.
Yeah. I could talk about this for 2 hours, but
well, you know,
we'll get rid of Chris and we'll keep going.
There you go.
Ahead,
that's all right. That's all right.
We'll take the break.
All right, let's take this break and we'll come back with Jordan Bohannon.
At Revelton Distilling Company, everyone has become a part of the Revelton family. From the Taylors and their daughter who helped perfect their award-winning gins, to the team who installed Lucy, our 33-foot-tall custom-made still, right down to the local farms that provide our coveted corn, and even the cows on those farms who consume our mash byproduct. Want to see the farm to flask come to life? Now you can tour Lucy and find out where we take Iowa's harvest and transform it into our finest spirits. Choose between a 45-minute tour or find out even more by scheduling a VIP behind-the-scenes tour to get the taste of the full Revelton experience. You can visit them at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, or find all of Revelton's award-winning spirits at any local grocery or spirits retailer.
Okay, and we're back with Jordan Bohannon. Jordan, I want to read this tweet that you put out July 17th. I'm not sure why this spoke to me, other than the fact that I think it was self-reflective, and I found it to be pretty profound. After my camp, and Alta, a sixth grader came up to me, what do I need to do to be as good as a shooter as you were? I talked about some drills and the amount of shots I would make and how many hours I would work out per day. But then the more I thought of it, I wasn't right to answer it like that. As I continue to journey on with my life, the more I realize that your mindset is the biggest factor in any profession you're in. The physical work is really just a byproduct. I did a disservice to the kid by answering with what rather than how and why. Don't compare yourself to anyone. Work to be better, not as good as. Be comfortable with being lonely and determine who you are with in the darkness. I think the biggest thing for me was be comfortable with being lonely, because I've kind of suffered from that recently, just in my job and things like that. So when I read that, I just thought that was really profound of what you wrote.
I appreciate that. I know, I have all this knowledge. I know I'm still, I like to consider myself young, but I've garnered a lot of knowledge within these last 6.5, 7 years, and I made mistakes, but through the mistakes I learned, and through the adversity I learned, and I knew where I was at as a kid. And I looking back as a 8th grader, 7th grader, if someone would have told me I would have broken the Big Ten 3-point record, I would have been, you're lying. Like, you would have had a Big Ten title, you're lying. There's no way I would have played for my dream school, you're lying. And a lot of it came from the work I put in. Yes, the physical actions I put myself through to get to that point. But, the more I thought about it as my time, as, now I'm 26 and now I kind of go into my next chapter in my life, like your mindset is the most important thing you can ever have in your life. Like if you don't have a strong mind, if you don't realize like you can put in all the work you want. And now that I'm playing the G League and I come across some of these players that they're phenomenal, gifted players, really skilled players, but their mindset is, shit. They're not going to last. They don't listen to people. They don't respect each other. They don't understand the whole, team aspect. And that's not the physical, that's not a downside on their physical skills. That's all mental skills. And, that's something, I wish a lot of kids are starting to, I feel like it's kind of faltering a little bit because a lot of kids are thinking they can put all this work in and that's great. They should work hard, but they're not taught the right way. These guys aren't, they're not taught of, how to go through failure and how to come out of it. They're not taught of, there's going to be nights in the gym. You're lonely. You don't want to be there. You might want to be at a party with your friends in high school and that's lonely and that sucks. But a lot of kids aren't taught that's the sacrifices you need to make. And, my personal favorite and what I've learned is, finding, that success through the darkness, going through that adversity and being almost happy you're in the darkness because that darkness is going to bring out some very, very bright, spotlights for you, for your future. And that's something, again, a lot of kids, for whatever reason, aren't taught that right now.
Well, I think the reason you came to that is because you've done what very few people do, and that's live a dream. Once you've actually lived a dream and know that it's possible, it's a lot easier to have that perspective but usually, especially when you're talking to older people, you're talking to people that gave up at some point. So people will poo-poo that, you know what I mean? But it's funny because when I hear you talk, what I hear is someone that's done, you've closed the first act of your life. Like this was act one, and I can tell it's almost like, it's like your life goes in 3 acts, and you're about to start act 2. So it's like act 1, that movie's over, and now comes the sequel, and the sequel is based on everything you learned in the first movie. So you're doing that first reflection, and I hope that I'm still alive to talk to you 20 years from now, because I can't wait to see how your mentality changes in the next 20 years.
Right. Yeah.
Because then you're going to reflect again. It's like that second one. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was 26, I'd been doing stand-up for a living for like 3 years. And you're almost repeating like so much of what I was saying, like all those sacrifices and all that stuff. But what's really happening though is if you really love it, you'd kind of rather be in the gym than at the party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You kind of would rather be there, and that's kind of why you're there,
Yeah.
And I think that's just the difference, honestly, when it comes to, of course, there's a lot of D1 athletes that are just God gifted so much that they at least get that far, because let's face it, scholarships are awarded on potential, and you don't know till they get there what they're going to be, really. But I feel like as you look back and you have all that pride, are you ever worried that, like, where do I go from here? Are you scared sometimes about what's next?
Oh, I was scared to death after I was done at Iowa. And, people always ask me if I've been back to Iowa City. Like all my friends, they go downtown Iowa City, and I haven't stepped foot since I've been done. I'm like, this is exactly what you're talking about. Like, I'm ready for what's next in this next act, like my next chapter. Like, I'm ready to get going with that. And, it's scary when you're a 20, I was 24 after I was done with Iowa, and I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do yet. I didn't know.
Right.
I was debating even just being done with basketball, but I've realized like some of my teammates, some of my friends that played sports in college, and me just talking to them, it's a scary place when you're done playing the sport.
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
It is.
It's been your whole identity up until then.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's I've suffered that, same deal with stand-up. You're doing that thing that everyone identifies you as. And so one of the scariest questions to answer is, well, what are you doing right now? If it's not what they've always known you to be doing, because it feels like you're telling them you failed.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to explain it, because I ran into so many people just on the street. They're thanking me for being a Hawk. They're thanking me for everything I did for the university, and that a lot of those conversations are very memorable now, looking back on my life and thinking about what I've done. But I'm a guy that I don't want to keep living in my past.
Right.
I want to be known for helping people to do what's good in life, and using my expertise to help others in the next generation. And, even if they're older than me, to help them out with their lives. And we started talking about like the entertainment aspect, and you were talking about how all the memories you've had watching Iowa, like hugging, strangers and stuff. I did have a story that just reminded me of it. Just thinking about, the cool things I did in my life and try to use that as my next chapter. I remember I was with the Iowa Wolves this season, and a guy came up to me, and he was, he had kind of tears rolling down his eyes after he met me. And obviously Iowa Wolves games aren't as filled and packed as Iowa.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
You're a lot more accessible.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So I was able to have a lot of personal conversations this past year after games, and he shook my head, gave me a soft hug, and he's like, and I have this portrait on my wall of this of me making my game-winning 3 at Wisconsin. And there's a guy that he printed it out, and he didn't paint it, but he touched it up to be really unique, and it's awesome. He signed up back, and I put it in my room, and it's one of my favorite things ever. And he ended up dying that next day after he did it.
Oh my gosh!
And the guy that met me and shook my hand was the guy's son. And
oh my God!
I said, I want to thank you for our last memory we had was sharing that memorable moment in your life of hitting that 3 and watching your family cheer for you. That was something I will cherish for the rest of my life, that I got to share that moment with my dad. And, obviously that was a very emotional.
That's goosebumps right there. Yeah.
Very emotional conversation. But that's the kind of stuff I want to carry on my next chapter. And that's what a lot of people get stuck in when they're athletes. They don't know how to use what they were taught for how long by these people, these great coaches, these teachers, how to transfer it to something else in their life. And that was a dead end I was kind of at. And, I'm still kind of struggling with that a little bit, but I'm starting to learn. I want to start using all that stuff we're talking about right now to be, the best person I can be, whether that's having a family and being the best husband I can be, or all the above. I want to make sure that transfers of all the stuff I learned. And that's exactly why I speak of my dad so highly, because Hayden Fry made him the person he is. I wouldn't be here without Hayden Fry. And I want to continue carrying that expertise and knowledge on to my next chapter.
Yeah, those ripple effects are crazy.
Yeah.
Really
how far a legacy can actually reach. It's kind of, insane. It's insane to think about. And I'm sure that it's hard to even reflect and even say those things out loud, because at the end of the day, I've said it many times, I've always done what I did for completely selfish reasons. I didn't choose to do any of this because I thought I would inspire anybody. I was just trying to do what I thought would be the most fun and the best job, or whatever, But then when somebody tells you you made their day, something really hard happens, oh wow, I'm not going to go as far as to say, well, this is what it's all about, because I don't think that's genuine. But in a way, it's something that for any little thing, when you're feeling down, something's setting you back. Just something small like that guy having that conversation with you could have been in a dark place at that moment, and that kept you going.
Yeah.
The next day, just one little 10-minute conversation. I mean, I remember a comic that I really looked up to. I was thinking about quitting, and a comic I really looked up to had watched my set and told me they really enjoyed what I did and thought I was good and blah, blah, blah. That conversation probably sustained me for 2 more years. That 10-minute conversation,
Yeah. No, I love it. I think too, everything we're talking about, happiness, money, go down the line of all the good things in life that makes you successful. Having a great family, that's all a byproduct of doing, the right thing, doing what you believe in is right. I'm a big believer in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and I think He's led me to so many great things in my life to continue to move forward And, money's never obviously that runs a lot of people's mind now, but now I know, that's always a byproduct. If you're doing what you believe is the right thing you should be doing, that in turn is what happiness is not going after.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not going after, the prettiest girl, like back in college, like think about all that kind of little crazy shit. Like that's not what's important in life. There's so many other things that lead to success and being happy.
Well, success is self-defined, in my opinion. That's what I always say. If you're accomplishing the goals that you set for yourself, then you're successful, whatever those goals are. I mean, if your goal is to learn how to be the best homeless guy, you're a fucking success when you got a nice tent. Like it's that simple. If you are the one that gets to decide what success is. That's the problem in our society, is that people define success by the outside sources. They have an idea of what success is because of the way people talk. Oh, this guy's real successful. Look, I mean, he's got 2 cars, he's got a great house, and that's what they say. This guy's successful because of that. What is that guy happy? Maybe his wife's a fucking cunt and he can't get out of it because he owes her half of his shit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's so many factors. To me, I was a success for a very long time because I was buying my groceries, telling jokes. Like, that's all I needed, and life has changed since COVID. I'm not making 100% of my living doing comedy anymore, but I'm good. I'm happy. I'm secure. It's kind of evolve or die, really. That's what life is.
And I think it's people judging you based on what they think success is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the biggest thing for me. I feel like I'm a successful man because I have a good family and I have a good marriage and things like that. But somebody else may look at me and think, well, he's not as successful as he should be. It's people's putting their projections on it is what it is.
Yeah, and that goes back to my tweet. One of the things, looking back and reflecting on my conversation with that kid, when you compare yourself to others, that's when so much damage can occur. Like you comparing yourself and you not.
That's the enemy of peace. Expectations are the enemy of peace.
Exactly, and you're not thinking of working to be better than the guy that you're comparing to. You're thinking about being the same level as the guy you're compared to. All that stuff, like that is so damaging to someone's mind, someone's heart and passion of what they really love to do. And like I said, that whole thing about that tweet, that was something that I wanted to. I'm glad I reflected on that, looking back on it, because it really is about the mental side and mindset of life. It's not the physical stuff will come when you have that strong mental.
Well, I've always been a believer that the real key to happiness is whatever you're doing with your life, that you enjoy the journey. Because if whatever you're doing, if you are doing something with your life to where you love the journey and the results don't matter, you got to let go of the results and love the journey. Because if you love the journey, then the journey never ends. So there is no end result that you're trying to achieve. You just love being on the journey forever. 100%. If you can achieve that, you're going to be probably one of the top 1% of happiest people on planet Earth.
Right.
100%. Well, Jordan, the other tweet that I want to talk about is the one that you tweeted out last week when the gambling hit, and you said, "Somebody get me on a podcast right now because I got thoughts." So,
I think I said I was going to moan for 57 minutes. So we'll see. We're at an hour 13.
Right. So I mean, we'll keep you as long as you want to go.
We can go. I'll do this all night. I don't give a shit.
But I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I think, I'll phrase my first question this way. And I'll talk about Hunter Deckers, starting quarterback, face of the franchise, face of the team, made those decisions allegedly. Am I wrong as a fan to go, what the fuck are you doing? And you have everything that's going to come to you. I mean, you knew what the rules were. It's clear what the rules are. You made a conscious decision. I don't have any sympathy for you. As a fan, am I wrong in thinking that?
Absolutely not, because they're held to expectation. I know we talked about expectations causing, kind of downsides in some of these guys' mindset, but really, you think about, I've been through it. I know what those meetings are like before seasons. Like you do this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're well aware of your consequences when you make those actions. And I'll always have a strong side for these college athletes because I've been through it. I know how hard it is, but man, when you don't do what's right, it's hard for people to want to be on your side. It's hard for people to want you to be a part of their program and want you to be an inspiration for your community because you realize, I mean, that's what college athletes are. They're key individuals in the communities. They're guys that literally make a difference in years to come on who they get for recruits, on who, how does their community view them, and how's their fandom, like all that stuff is off the backs of the college athletes.
So it's a platform, huge platform.
Yeah, huge platform. So when you make a decision like that, it's tough for someone to rally behind you. And I'm right there with you, Chris. It's hard for me to stand there and support for some of these guys that are knowingly allegedly broke laws of the game that they take so proudly in.
I feel like some of it is a little bit blown out of proportion, and I don't want to be this guy that says, well, the media sensationalizes things, but I feel like the way it's been reported in some ways, which by the way has been strictly factual, I don't think any reporters or anything have done any asshole
Here's the thing,
things,
before you finish this, Bill, sorry to interrupt you. I know I've done a couple of that now, so I apologize, but
no, you're good.
The only thing I don't understand is how did the Gaming Commission come out a few months ago and say, we've looked into this, there's not going to be any charges? Is that, I don't know the exact statement they made, but it was along those lines. And then we learned 2 months later that
because somebody else decided. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little
there's somebody somewhere that was a fucking nerd or something who's, there's probably a football player stole his girlfriend in college or some shit. So like he just wants to ruin people's days because he's a fucking small little person. But
well, ask yourself why it's only Iowa and Iowa State.
Exactly. And why is it only football and basketball?
Right.
It's bullshit. But here's my point though, in the grand scheme of things, to me, like I said, the reporting has all been factual, but I still feel like the way the facts have been presented is somewhat sensationalized in that I feel like the tone of everything makes it seem so much worse than it actually is. Because to me, if you really look into it, now, of course, there's, the kid that's in the NFL now, he was a little, he got a little bit larger, but like, you look at the bets and the betting patterns and you look at all this stuff. To me, it's no different than when you were 19 if your dad bought you a beer. You know what I'm saying? Like any one of us, as long as we didn't bet, obviously I have a problem with you betting on your own sport or your own team or whatever. But like if any one of us, when we were 19, and we did the same thing, like we ran something through our dad because our dad was like, yeah, whatever, you want to throw $5 in there, go ahead. Like that's all this was literally to me.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get in trouble for it as a 19-year-old regular kid or the kid who's dead, because it's perfectly legal for a parent to buy their 19-year-old kid a beer.
Right.
That's legal. That's okay. So what's the fucking difference, in my opinion? As long as they aren't tainting their sport.
Right.
Now, an Iowa kicker betting the under on the Iowa State game, that's something that raises eyebrows. That's questionable. You might have influence on that.
Yeah, if that, like I said, that's all allegedly. I don't know.
Alleged,
yeah. But the fact, I do agree with you. I think like you're betting on yourself theoretically, but
not if you're betting the under.
Yeah.
If you bet on your team to win or something, absolutely, who cares? But if you're betting the under, I mean, you could influence that,
Yeah, I would imagine like my expertise, like I've met with the NCAA president, and I know I kind of his mindset of, I guess that was the old president, but how they were handling a lot of these policies. I would imagine like it would loosen up just a little bit in these next couple of years. Like if you're looking at, like, I'm playing professionally basketball in the G League. I can bet on college basketball. I can bet on NFL. I can bet on all these other sports. I just can't bet on NBA, on G League games. Like, I can't do that, which, okay, that's understandable. Then I'll bet on these other games, which I don't see any problem with. And that's what a lot of these guys did that have come out against. But as soon as we start talking about betting on your own team, I think that's a slippery slope for these NCAA members because they know they don't want to jeopardize the integrity of the game, even though the NCAA is jeopardizing the integrity of the game by what they're doing with other things. But
the NCAA invites it when, prior to NIL, I don't blame a fucking poor kid from Detroit who's shaving some points, because some mafia guy's going to give him 35 G's or something. I mean, that's the NCAA's fault that anybody would even want to do that. Like, in my opinion, NIL will cut down on that shit.
Right. I agree. Yeah. It was kind of funny looking back on, all these allegations that have occurred, and you look back, like, I think it was, let's see here, November or late October, that Riverside Casino came out and gave all this money to the Swarm. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Not a good look.
Yeah. We'll take it.
Bill, I'll push back on one thing though. You're right. If I was 19 and I said to my dad, "Will you throw $5 on this for me or whatever?" he probably would have. But I would like to think that if I had so much to lose and I had certain responsibilities that were attached to what I was doing, he would say to me, "There's absolutely no fucking way I would do that."
Right.
Yeah. So Jordan, are the parents in on those meetings? On those like education meetings, like when you guys sit down, like you were talking about, when they tell you the rules, so the parents aren't in on that.
No, but
I'm just saying. I mean, a parent might, if the parents aren't in on it, and maybe a parent thought it wasn't a big deal for the kid to bet on a baseball game.
If they're that, I don't know. It's hard for me to wrap. I'm kind of with Chris here because I know he's right. There's so much for you to lose to make a $7 bet on a game that you should not be betting on. You have you're jeopardizing your whole playing career. Like, what's the upside of making a $21 cash?
That's what I don't get. That's what I don't get is what's the upside to that?
Yeah.
Well, other than just fun, but
right, but
other ways to have fun.
Go drive 30 minutes to Riverside Casino. Go play blackjack. Like, if you really need to bet that bad, if you're wanting to bet on sport, go make that drive 30 minutes.
Sure.
Like, well, that's my biggest problem. Like, I made that drive enough. Like, I know. I'd rather go play blackjack than bet on my own team.
Yeah. Just don't go to the sports book at Riverside Casino when you make that drive.
Yeah. I'll go lose $100 at the blackjack table. I know I'm not going to go put money on a sports book.
Of course, when you were in school, though, somebody would have been like, "Where'd you get that $100?"
Yeah, that's true. And I would say at the blackjack table.
Jordan had been over there paying his parking tickets with hundreds.
My dad bought me some chips.
Yeah.
Jordan,
it's a bizarre situation. I don't know. I wish the best for the guys if it's not true, but.
Well, I get that. Just not weighing the risks properly and making that $7 bet that can jeopardize your whole career. I can understand how that would make a coach or a program be like, well, this dude's not even smart enough to play for us. So we don't really.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Wow, you're this dumb. You shouldn't be on our team.
Listen, I think it was Chip Kelly once said, I think it was back when Kirk wasn't allowing players to have Twitter at the time. And I think it might have been Chip Kelly came out and said, if you can't trust him on Twitter, how can you trust him on third down?
Right.
It's kind of the same deal. I mean, if you can't trust him to follow this simple rule, how do you trust him to do anything else?
It's the same exact thing. It's a great point, Chris, because it's the same exact thing of what are your obligations? What do you have to abide by when you're a college athlete? Like, you're not breaking all these other rules. Like,
right.
You're abiding by all these you're showing up to practice on time. You're not being late to lifting. You're showing up to the bus on time to get to the plane. Like, you're not doing any of these things that are against what the coaches has as rules and expectations for the team. It goes along with that. It's not, and that goes on to your next chapter in life. When you're working for someone, if you're your own boss, you got to abide by certain rules and laws. You can't do these things, and that's something I don't agree with. If these true allegations are true, then I'm sorry for them, but they should have known better.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just don't think. I think it's more nuanced. You know what I mean? We all, as adults, even, and it's not that they're not adults; they're young adults, but like, we all don't follow rules that we think are stupid sometimes.
Yeah,
right.
And like I said,
I mean, shit about my shoes. Like I didn't follow the rules.
yeah,
Right,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Like you when they told you not to do it, you're like, well, fuck you,
Yeah,
right? And like you said, you're almost ineligible because of that.
right.
So like, to me, obviously, like I said, when you're betting on your own team or whatever, I can understand that. But a kid that gets, because what I'm seeing right now, the charges are these like criminal charges of like misrepresentation. They aren't really like about gambling on the sport or anything like that. It's that they said they were their dad instead of themselves or something.
Well, that's because those are
So,
NCAA violations, that as far as betting on their own sports or whatever.
right.
So, which they have not announced who the other people are for just the NCAA violations.
But the point being that I just feel like if they didn't bet on their own sport and they didn't bet maybe even on their own school, just whatever sport with their own school, but I mean, you can only bet on one or two sports. But I feel like if they were throwing $5-10 here and there at an NFL game, I just feel like you slap them on the wrist. You just you have the self-awareness. You have the awareness to just go, you know what? This is stupid. This is a stupid rule. Yeah, I know it's a rule, but it doesn't. We can fucking fix it. We can change. This is dumb.
Well,
why can't they do that?
And if that's the case that happens, then great. Then I'll back the players again because okay, they changed the rule and they successful. So,
but here's the problem, and Jordan, you know this better than anybody. The NCAA is losing so much power that they're going to hold on to whatever power they have right now with the tightest grip instead of being proactive and saying, okay, let's get ahead of this and make it a better situation. They would much rather squeeze on to what little power they have left, because they're going to lose it pretty soon. And then after a while, there is not going to be any NCAA. They're making the same mistake they've made throughout their entire years. Instead of seeing the problem and just keep pushing it down the road, they would rather do that than be proactive and try to solve the problem.
Correct. I mean, it's just I know a few. I mean, I have a couple buddies that work actually in the NCAA, and like, there's some great, phenomenal people that work there. So whenever I see them, I'm like, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the board of governors, and I'm talking about the NCAA president. Those are the people that literally deserve jail time for what they've been doing for these athletes for so long. And you're exactly right. They won't be proactive. They will not get on top of issues. They'll wait for the last minute to try to decide something that they think is right, but it's not actually right. And, NIL is a perfect example. They're spending millions of dollars still lobbying against NIL.
Yes.
They want a bill passed by, Tuberville. It's a dog shit NIL bill, and that will never get passed. But that's because the NCAA has, legislators in their back pocket. They're going to do everything they can to try to not have these universities be ran by these players. But for hundreds of years,
well, they won't make any.
Players have been running.
It's just it's an easy follow the money situation. I mean, in reality, the NCAA is kind of like the IRS. They don't even need to exist. Like they're it's almost like they're an illegal entity. They're thieves.
Yeah.
Like the NCAA, they're just thieves. They have nothing to do with any individual schools whatsoever. They just govern athletics. Mm-hmm. And for what? Why do they get to do that?
And they run a monopoly.
It's a monopoly.
100%. Under literally by people that are listening, you look up a cartel. They're literally a living cartel in the United States. What they're doing.
It's like I said, like you were saying with Derek on our last podcast when I said, like, military, the war is just Bloods and Crips with money. It's the same mentality. It's just that the guns aren't stolen; they have tanks.
Yep.
Like it's the same exact shit, and it's the same deal with the NCAA. They're just crooks. They're criminals that are getting away with it, and because they wear a suit and tie, they aren't in jail.
Color me shocked that Tommy Tupperville wants to put an end to NIL when the guy made all his money off the backs of players. So
that's the funny thing. I've gotten so many arguments. I'm glad you brought that up, Chris. A lot of these guys, like Seth Greensburg, he tweeted at me way long ago and during COVID NCAA tournament when I was complaining about, what was going on. And he's like, you're so ungrateful. Like, you get all this stuff. And as a college athlete, I'm like, sure as shit, you're going to say that, Seth. You just had a subpar 500 coaching career, but you made millions of dollars off these games.
Right.
Maybe
now you're sitting on a cushy job.
Yeah, maybe you should take less money and then coach the players a little better, and you would have had a better record.
No kidding.
Or how about, hey, by the way, you got to suck for 4 years and get bought out of your contract.
Exactly.
You didn't just get you got $1 million to leave.
Yeah.
And yeah, we might get the education, but nobody's giving us $2 million to leave.
Yeah.
Right. Jordan, we're going to end it here. I really appreciate you coming on. This has been phenomenal to be able to sit down and talk to you, and I really appreciate it. And I've found a newfound respect for you, and you've made a fan out of me tonight. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Chris. I thank you guys. I know, like I said earlier in the podcast, I've met so many great Iowa State people, and as much as I hated the Cyclones when I was playing, like I always think like Iowa is truly one of the best places in the world, and we can have this rivalry and still talk about it when I'm done playing. But there's so many genuine people, and I appreciate you, Chris, for having me on. I think that's what makes Iowa so great is we have such great people in the state.
Sure. Overall, like I found that I liked Seneca Wallace. I interviewed him a couple of times and talked, and I actually genuinely liked the guy, and I fucking hated him. Like, oh my God, I hated that dude. I got in a fight on the way out of the game with Iowa State fans when Seneca Wallace was playing.
I don't know you, but just by the personality when I'm talking to you, I don't know why that doesn't surprise me.
All I know is it was 30 Iowa State fans on 2 of us and not a scratch. They're all bitches, all of you. No.
We were too busy basking in the glow of
Brad Banks' victory.
Banks' fumble of hand of God. All right.
It was Aaron Greving, who was from Ames, asshole. But anyway.
I don't know.
Yeah. Before I go, Jordan, thank you so much, dude. This was so awesome for me just as a fan. It's hard, I feel pathetic. I grew up a Hawkeye fan. I started going to games when I was like 6 years old. Was never good enough to play at the Division I level, on any sport. I played JUCO baseball for a minute, but I never got to get that far. But I have bled black and gold for my entire life. And so in a weird way, in this little bit of a pathetic way, as a 45-year-old man, I still look up to you guys, even though, and I think a lot of fans are like that. I really do. I'm spending thousands of dollars a year now, and I still look at the players through that little kid lens. I still envy them. If there was an adult Make-A-Wish, I would fake a terminal illness. I would fake a terminal illness to be Herky for a day. I would do all of it. So
sadly, he's not lying.
This is huge for me, and I love all you guys so much. And Fran, man, I ran into Fran at an airport in Detroit when he first started the job, and I've always loved the guy, and I've been the biggest. I have always supported him. I know Hawkeye fans get on him. I love him. That stare down with the ref last year is one of my most favorite things I've ever seen in my life. I adore Fran, and I know for a fact his players love him. We'll run through a wall for that dude.
Yep.
So to me, that's all it takes. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I'm not gonna lie. I would give anything to talk to Fran McCaffrey on the podcast.
Oh fuck! I love Fran.
Just to get Fran and Bill on an episode together would be great.
Me, Fran, and Jordan talking about pussy ass refs. That would be.
I'll tell you what, I have so many conversations with Coach. And I have like this 100 notes on my, or like hundreds of quotes on my phone of Fran, and they're like 99% of refs. It's so funny.
So great.
See, these people, I knew it. It's Fran. I want Fran to be my uncle or something, like so bad. God, I adore that dude.
Oh, that's so great.
I adore him. All right.
We appreciate everybody listening. Thanks for tuning in. Check out all our pods on the Three Beers Media Network. And with that, I am Chris Shipley. This is Bill Blank. Thank you again, Jordan Bohannon. We really appreciate it. And everybody have a great night.